selfish man, keeping others in mind. I give the shoes off my feet and the shirt off my back. The past few years I can't get nothing to last. I've changed the way I've seen my days. Too much time running with nothing real to say. In 10 years I'd like to sit back and say I took every shot, I played every stage. I'd like to go back when I knew no shame. I'd like to go back for everything changed. I'd like to go back when you knew my name. Well, I can't stand these growing pains. So I tied myself down with a job and a girl. I tried my hand at the normal world. I still run back to those wilder days. We laughed and drank until the sunrise came. Still bumming cigarettes on pocket chains. Still calling up the boys, no big plans those days. I'd like to go back when I knew no shame. I'd like to go back for everything changed. I'd like to go back when you knew my name. Well, I can't stand these growing pains. I'd like to go back when I knew no shame. I'd like to go back for everything changed. I'd like to go back when you knew my name. Well, I can't stand these growing pains.
Hey, it's Tuesday night, and you guys know what time it is. It's time for the Blitz. Not just any Blitz, it's the PreGame Blitz. This is the show of SuperFans talking about everything when it comes to high school athletics, specifically football, and really anything that sports related that comes to our mind. You guys are going to want to stick around, and I know it's the off season, guys. I know, but other people might say that there's not much to talk about. There's always something to talk about. There's always something to talk about. And so that's going to be the case tonight. So, but you're going to have to put up with just half of the super fans tonight, because we got a couple of guys they're out. One guy is out sick. Justin, we hope you feel better, man. We really do. The other guy is his wife's about to have a baby. So I'm talking about Colmore. So we wish these guys the very best when it comes to their health. And we wished Cole and his wife, Lauren, the best wishes for their new addition to their family. Maybe it's coming tonight. We don't know yet. So anyway, I got a text from Cole earlier today. It's like, man, I might have to miss the show tonight because my wife might be going into labor. It's like, Cole, don't worry about the show. Go be with your wife. It's okay, man. We'll give you a hall pass for this one. But I hope Cole is, the role of a husband / dad when his wife goes into the hospital. I hope there's no moms watching tonight as I'm about to say this. So let me go ahead and bring in George. George, how are you, man?
Hey, all right. Go ahead and make your point before you bring my mug onto this.
I know, that's right.
No, I'm a veteran here. I'm a veteran dad, okay? Five times. So
you know exactly what to expect then.
I can remember the first one like it was yesterday. I know what Cole is feeling.
George, I don't know if you felt this way, but I felt helpless, like couldn't do anything. You're just sitting there watching your wife go through having these major contractions, that she's in a great deal of pain. Man, oh man, and you just sitting there in the corner feeling helpless, right? And so I remember when we were having our first, Matthew, this was 23 plus years ago. And so the fateful night had come. And so we go to the hospital and the nurse examines her and she says, you're X centimeters or millimeters or feet squared, whatever they say.
Some kind of number, right?
Some kind of number they throw out at you.
Something to your wife, but not us.
That's exactly right. And I remember her vividly saying, yep, you're far enough along. You're a keeper. I remember those words vividly. You're a keeper. That means the baby's coming soon. We just don't know how soon. So it turned out to be a few hours later. But I remember she was having contractions and one had just come and gone. And I felt so sorry for her. But so during one of these lull times, she looks at me and she says, hey, why don't you come over here and pray for us? I said, okay. Being a praying family, that's what we did, right? So I grabbed her hand and I was praying for her and the health of the baby and our future family and that kind of stuff, keeping us safe, keeping her safe. And George, right about that time, another contraction hit. I thought the woman was going to rip my hand off. She clamped down on my hand. And then I don't know if her head spun around or what. She looks at me. She says, no, pray for the pain, you idiot. Now, to this day, she will swear up and down that that's not what she said, but that's what registers in my brain.
Yeah.
So anyway,
well, it gets a pass if she did, I guess.
That's exactly right. Hey, listen, I completely understand, man. I don't know what moms in labor go through, but man, oh man, she looked like she was hurting. So I give her a pass on that, all that stuff. So I say that because Cole and Lauren are going through that perhaps tonight. So we might have a baby Cole to announce sometime during the show or sometime tonight or tomorrow morning. We just don't know yet.
The moon's pretty full, you know.
I know. But anyway, so that's why, guys, you guys are just stuck with George and I tonight. But that's okay because we talk for a living, don't we, George? So we're not going to have a problem talking. That's for sure.
And some good stuff, Larry. You mentioned earlier. I like to call it the preseason. I don't understand the term off season. That's
a good point.
Season, and then there's the preseason.
Good point.
Because you're always getting ready. I learned that in farming when we farm blueberries. And as soon as you're done harvesting, you have to get started for next year immediately because it's preseason. So I look at it that way.
That's right. So we got a couple of questions out there. That's a good point. Chris Pace, I don't know if you know Chris, George, he is a big Coffee County Trojan fan.
Okay.
But in the college sports world, he is united with us. He says, yo, LG, go Dogs. Hey, Chris Pace, this is for you, man. Check this out. I'm still celebrating, baby. I'm still celebrating.
Nice.
There's a real good buddy of mine. He's big Alabama. So there's two guys that live in Alabama that are really good friends with me. So one's an Auburn fan and one is an Alabama fan. And during the season, we have such a good time trash talking in this group chain, just the three of us. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, the Auburn fan obviously helped me gang up on the Alabama fan about a week ago, just because Auburn, they hate Alabama just as much as we do. So anyway, since I didn't trash talk with the Bama fan that much just because I knew our history with Bama. But as soon as we won that game,
it's on now.
It's on like Donkey Kong, man. So it's the hit that keeps on giving, George. So I sent those two a made up holiday. So I said, guys, I think February 2nd, I'm going to make up a Georgia Bulldog. And I call it the Georgia Bulldog Whips Alabama Day. And every year annually, it's going to fall on February 2nd at 6 p.m. And it's like, well, why that date and why that time? Because it's the 33rd day of the year and the 18th hour.
That's perfect. Yes.
So Georgia Whips Alabama Day is February 2nd at 6 p.m. every year.
I will put it in my calendar on what's it called? Repeat. Or never
Absolutely.
end.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So the other one is Tim Neesmith. Tim, I can recommend a very good audiologist, man. You got to get your hearing checked. Billy is not having a baby. Cole and his wife, Lauren specifically is about to have a baby, but not Billy Pearson. And Billy, I don't know if you know Billy, George. Billy is a big local Lowndes fan. And he just recently got engaged to his sweetheart, Michelle Carter. So I don't know if they're watching.
Okay.
So Tim is just picking on Billy.
Gotcha.
All right, guys, let me go ahead and throw up some sponsors. Speaking of Tim Neesmith, he is one of our sponsors. So, of course, we want to thank Winn-Dixie, Clint Haynes, and the guys. You guys are in the Valdosta area. Stop on by Winn-Dixie. Avoid those big box chains where you got to stand in line for an hour, it seems like, or they don't really hire anybody. You got to go through like 10,000 auto checkout machines, right? Well, that's what it appears anyway. So if you gotta have a need for pharmacy, deli, groceries, give Winn-Dixie a shot here in Valdosta. A shade of perfection. The guy we were just talking about and making fun of, Tim Neesmith. We call him Stickman locally. He has a company called A Shade of Perfection. Guys, if you ever want to dress up your windows and make them look nice, when you walk up to a house, you notice the door, if there's a porch there, and then you notice the windows. And if you want to really jazz up your curb appeal, man, make your windows stand out, right? It's the eyeshadow of the housing world, right?
Exactly.
Make it pop. And Tim Neesmith can help you do that. And, I didn't see the connection there, but he calls his company A Shade of Perfection. Right? Custom shades and blinds. Give Tim Neesmith a call. You see the number right there on the screen. Guys, if you ever have the need for, George, have you ever suffered from a migraine?
I have, Larry. I had to take medicines growing up.
Yeah.
I've had a CAT scan when I was 10. I remember going to Jacksonville and the nurse came out. I was a young boy, like 9 or 10 years old. And she called my name and I stood up and she almost started crying because they thought I had a brain tumor or something. They're really bad. You'll throw up.
Yeah.
Extreme sensitivity to light. It's awful. It will ruin your life when you have a migraine.
Wow.
And I had to take these really heavy hitting medicines and my day was done when I'd get one. It was to the bed for me. And then hopefully when I woke up again, I know you probably weren't prepared for that, but that honestly, it's awful.
So it can be not just awful, but it can be debilitating.
Yes, debilitating is actually accurate.
Yeah,
it's awful.
So our guys, Josh Batson and Justin Haskin at the Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta, guys, they can help with that. Not just help you prevent migraines from occurring, but they can help you with the acute phase of a migraine as well. So if something comes on. Right. If sudden onset occurs and you need to take care of it right now, they can help you with that. They have a variety of migraine treatments. They also treat back pain. They also do nerve conduction studies. So they're expanding their services. You see the number right there on the screen. We've got a couple of other sponsors that we want to highlight. White Oak Investment, Kyle Conger. If you have the need for retirement planning, let's face it, George, you and I are going to retire one day, and every single person watching this stream tonight is going to get old enough to retire one day. And guys, and the biggest difference is some people are going to be prepared and some are not. Don't be caught in the bucket of people that are not prepared. Don't rely on Social Security to fund your retirement because that's nothing. That is nothing compared to the cost of living. So be prepared. Even if you haven't started yet and you're in your 30s, 40s, even maybe your 50s, it's never too late until you decide to retire to start saving money. Kyle can help you walk through that retirement process planning, and he can help you with your regular investments as well. If you have the need for a wireless phone, whether it's an iPhone, Android, or accessory, give Matthew Godwin a call at Verizon Wireless on Perimeter Road. And our newest sponsor is Pepsi Cola. Guys, check this out. George, I don't know if you like this drink or not, or what your favorite blend of Pepsi products is, but mine is either Diet Mountain Dew or Mountain Dew Zero. I think it's created from God himself. That's my personal opinion.
For sure. Yeah, I like the new formulation of not zero, but the zero sugar. It tastes a little bit more like, you know, the old regular Pepsi. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have that funky what is it, saccharin or diet Pepsi.
Right.
I'm just not into that. Some people still love that. That's cool. That's why they still have it. But yeah, I like the zero sugar. I think it's a black can, if I remember correctly, because I get it in the bottle and the can.
Gotcha.
Good stuff, though. But
listen
yeah,
to this. Listen to this, man. So I don't know if you know Ben Franklin Beam. I think he's up in the North Side Warner Robins area.
Oh, Wilson?
He says this. Yeah, Wilson, our resident Wilson. He says this. George is a Ware fan. He's had a lot of headaches.
I had a big one in 07, Ben.
Guys,
I sure did.
We just got through talking about our sponsors. We are going to start a giveaway on this show. Some of my folks in the Lowndes area, the Valdosta area, are used to us giving away doing a giveaway drawing on our Thursday night Lowndes show, the Around the Nation show, where we just focus on Lowndes athletics. On this show on Tuesday night, guys, we focus on all athletics, not just Lowndes, but all the athletics, all the teams. So, but we really haven't had very many, if any, giveaways on this show. We're going to start doing that, but you got to enter in a different hashtag. With this show, you enter in hashtag pregame. That's all you got to do. Hashtag pregame. I don't know if I've had a chance to put that up there yet. So I'm going to put this in the comments so you'll know what I'm talking about. I just threw that in the comments so you'll know what I'm talking about. Just like that. Hashtag pregame. That's all you have to do, right? And at the end of the show, I'll start doing that random software. There you go, Timmy. Stickman's got it right there. So anyway, that's all you have to do. And we are giving away a Stuff the Bucket chicken meal tonight from Winn-Dixie. Now, here's the deal. Here's the only drawback. We've got folks all around the viewing area, all the way up to Macon, Warner Robins, you know, out over on the coast. So the only catch to this drawing, George, is you got to go to the Winn-Dixie store in Valdosta to collect. That's the only thing. So if you live in Warner Robins, you may not want to do the drawing. Or if you do, that's fine. And you got a buddy that lives in Valdosta, give him a call and give the prize to him or her, whatever the case might be. So that's the deal. So tonight's show, on the Tuesday night show, this is called the Pregame Blitz. We're doing the drawing, the giveaway, and you just got to do hashtag pregame. So that's it. George, the first thing on the agenda tonight is spring sports are right around the corner. Do you know what was significant about yesterday, January 17th, as far as spring sports goes?
I don't.
It was the first day that baseball teams in high school could have practice.
Okay. So, okay, because I think last week I saw some tennis tryouts happening. So, so baseball specifically was today? Baseball specifically
was yesterday, started yesterday, and a lot of teams started having tryouts and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So anyway, the earliest the games could start. What was the earliest? I cannot remember the earliest that the games could start. I think it was like February.
March. Is it as early as February? I haven't really looked at the schedules yet.
I should know this, dang it. But I can't remember. I had this all planned out and I can't remember. Oh, here it is right here. I think. Nope, I don't have it written down. So guys, if you're watching, if you're a baseball fan, just let me know. Shoot me a deal or put it in the comments there. Baseball tryouts. Yeah, Tim Neesmith says baseball tryouts was yesterday. And let's see. I don't have it written down. Dang it. My bad, guys. I pride myself on being prepared for the show, and I don't know why I did not.
But you know, we're right around the corner. I mean, which is funny. We've got a blast of winter air coming, and I remember as a baseball player, that was my thing growing up. Was if anybody's listening who played baseball, who got jammed on a nice cold
Right.
late winter, early spring day with those old aluminum bats.
Yep.
Mercy. There is
I
quite,
know.
that's almost like Lego pain, stepping on a Lego pain.
Goodness gracious, man.
Good stuff. Baseball's fun.
Yeah, I remember when I played high school football, we had, nowadays they have like spring practice in like May. But I remember, George, when you and I were in high school and we had our spring practice, like I want to say it was like in February or something because I remember it was still being cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So anyway,
you're right.
All right, here it is right here. February 14th is the earliest date for a baseball game.
That is literally within a month.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So baseball's coming very soon. And, that's true for reporting to spring training for the major leagues as well. I think pitchers and catchers within the next 3 weeks. So
Are there some contracting issues with Major League Baseball?
they still are involved. I think they're still involved with a collective bargaining agreement. I think I think they're in lockout right now.
Right.
So I haven't had any updates on that. We can maybe this next week have some updates to share next Tuesday. But the Braves Nation, of course, we're all excited. They're coming off the World Series and bringing back a lot of talent that we had. But some of the questions still remain, like Freddie Freeman and others. But even at the high school level, baseball's almost here.
Yep.
Great times.
Yep.
Spring
hey,
football.
guys, before we get into our first major topic, if you would like to participate on the show, do you have what it takes to be a super fan? To hit us up on the SuperFan call-in line, right? And if you have, do you have what it takes to be put on the LG 3-minute timer to promote your program? Tell us why your program is the biggest and baddest in the land. If that describes you, I put in the call-in line right there on the screen. The call-in number is 229-469-1205, 229-469-1205. We don't usually get very many people to hit us up for that, George, because listen, a lot of people can talk a good game when they're typing it in, but when we put them on the screen and put a 3-minute timer on them, all of a sudden they become clams.
3 minutes is a long time.
3 minutes is a long time. That's exactly right. But that's okay. That's okay. The first major topic that we have tonight, George, is I call it the Georgia Legislature strikes back. Man.
Star Wars reference. Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple of major bills that are being pre-filed. One thing to look forward, there's two things to always look forward to at the beginning of the year. Tax season begins, and the Georgia's legislature is about to go into session. And everyone around the state holds their breath for both of those because both of those have a dramatic or potentially has a dramatic impact on our lives. Now, with the tax season, obviously, that's a major deal. But when it comes to, if you care at all about high school athletics, you'll want to listen closely through this next segment. The Georgia Legislature strikes back. There's two major bills, George, that are being pre-filed by the same guy, Jeff Mullis, up in North Georgia. And the first bill, basically, he wants to dissolve. In other words, do away with the Georgia High School Association, the GHSA. What do you think about that? What is your first gut reaction when you hear about that? Are you pro or against the GHSA?
Well, I mean, I guess more for than against.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a lot of unenviable tasks they have to do, right?
That's right.
Whether it be region alignments or who gets to play in which classification, hearing people's grievances and trying to come up with a solution. I don't think it's a very easy job that some Monday morning quarterbacks like to.
Sure.
And when it affects you, the old NIMBY thing, right? Not in my backyard, but good for thee, not for me.
That's right.
So my gut reaction is, I'm open-minded enough, though, to say, okay, replace it with what? Government or private? I mean, what, or nothing? Are we talking Wild West?
Well, the language in the bill says they won't replace it with a state agency. So it sounds like they're still going to have an association. It'll just fall up underneath a government committee, or they'll put it somewhere, right? But here's the deal. I didn't know if many people knew this. So maybe most people do. I'm not sure. But the current structure of the GHSA, they have it set up as a private organization, right? That is not accountable to the public or whatever. But at the same time, the people that run the GHSA, meaning the people that are assigned to write the bylaws and the Constitution and conduct votes and things like that, are school administrators, athletic directors, principals, head coaches. It's basically school people.
Yeah.
Right. And the staff itself of the GHSA actually work for the organization. It's led by an executive director in Robin Hines. And then he's got a handful of people that work for him that basically run the day-to-day operations to carry out the edicts of the GHSA or the school people that put the changes in place. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. It's almost like a quasi type of government agency, right? It's kind of like the Federal Reserve, right? The Federal Reserve is a private organization, but it's kind of a quasi government organization because the Fed chairman is appointed by the President of the United States.
Right.
So there is some accountability built in. Now, when is the last time you've ever heard the GHSA compared to the Federal Reserve? You won't get it on any other show except this one, right?
Yeah. They've probably been audited too, but I won't go too much further in those weeds.
That's right. So anyway, so that's the first major bill that's being dropped this year. Yeah. And this is not the first time it's happened. It's happened before, and it seems to happen every reclassification cycle when a representative of a school system that falls in their district doesn't quite get their way. That's when the threat comes from the legislature or legislators that's involved. But I don't know if it's a good deal or not, because people complain about the GHSA all the time, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
What are some of the complaints that, let me restate this. What complaints do you have of the GHSA, if any?
One that comes to mind is I don't like during football season, and I was made aware of this year, when the GHSA comes into the home field of the team. Let's say, for example, Pierce County this year hosted, I think it was Peach County, or the one after that. At any rate, they come in and try to make it a neutral site. They say you can't say certain catchphrases like "hold on to your honey, you're in bear country," for example, for Black's year.
Right.
As if they're trying to make it a neutral site. It's not a neutral site. It's a home game. They earned it by way of, if nothing else, a coin flip or a higher seed. I don't like that. That's a nitpicky thing, but I guess that got to go under they're trying to take over things, that they really shouldn't have any bearing doing so.
Sure. Now, one of the things that's driving this, according to Representative Mullis, I think that's his name, Jeff Mullis. One of the things that's driving this, and I think it's in the bill, the language of the bill. I apologize, don't have the exact bill that's up, so I can't tell you the exact verbiage. But what happened to Valdosta this past season is helping to drive this. And what I mean by that is everyone remembers the saga of Valdosta football this past year, right? Whether you like Rush Propst or not, he was basically the catalyst that drove all these decisions by the GHSA. And one of the students that was involved as far as getting their eligibility suspended, not suspended, but basically revoked for the year, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think, do you remember that case where that player and his family sued the GHSA to try to get his eligibility restored?
That's right.
So he kind of won and he kind of didn't at the same time. So it went to court, and I don't know if people remember what the ruling from the judge was, but the judge basically said, it needs to go back to the GHSA. So we're granting the petition, but here's the rest of the story. your case can go back to the GHSA, because the GHSA, according to your bylaws, you did not allow the student athlete to have due process in this, because you didn't you didn't allow that student and his family to present their case at any time, because what the GHSA was trying to do, they thought they were living up to the letter of the law of their bylaws by saying, yeah, but we don't actually serve the student athlete. We serve our member schools, and it's up to the member school to present that defense for the student and their eligibility. So that's what Valdosta did. Valdosta presented the case. It was denied. The appeal was denied. And the effect was the student athlete lost their eligibility. So the student athlete, they sued the GHSA. The judge ruled on their side in their favor, says, yeah, you didn't get your day in court, basically, in front of the GHSA. So we're going to require them to rehear this. But then he put a caveat on that ruling. He says, whatever decision the GHSA comes up with this time, because you filed it yourself, you appealed, is the final word. I don't want to hear it. There's no appeal. So basically, the plaintiff won, but it was only on process, due process terms. Right. It wasn't the merits of the case. It was just a matter of ruling on due process. Yeah. And so now then, as a result, the GHSA changed their bylaws, or are in the process of changing their bylaws, that says we don't serve this. So they wanted to make the language crystal clear this time. The judge ruled in favor of the student last time because the language was kind of ambiguous. Yeah. So the GHSA, as a result, that we see it a lot of times in these court cases, they tightened up the language, and they said basically this time, we don't serve the interest of student athletes. Basically, that's what basically they said. We serve our member schools, and the student athlete has no due process in the GHSA.
In their eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have to go through the school, the member school, to get that. So they just tightened up the language. The end result was the same. So now here comes this state representative. They're using that as a catalyst to file one of these bills. So you got to put due process for the individual student in there. Yeah. And at the same time, we're going to dissolve the GHSA.
Yeah. Meanwhile, yeah, that part, I haven't, read the entirety of the bill either, what they suggest to put in place, but I don't see. I think we've got the wheel. Yeah. I don't know that we need to do any reinventing here, but I haven't heard a case articulated that would compel me to think otherwise either.
Yeah. Here's a part of the language of the bill. It says, relating to elementary and secondary education, so as to provide for the designation of a nonprofit organization to govern high school athletics in this state, to provide for definitions, to provide for a governing structure, to provide requirements for a board of directors, to provide for a representative assembly, to provide for a public liaison advisory committee, to provide for due process and appeals, to provide for amendment. So they're basically like oftentimes, like any type of governmental law, they basically put the structure of it, and they leave it up to whoever they assign to come up with the details. Right. So they don't ever put the details in the law itself.
Because the devil's in the details.
That's right.
As we know.
So listen, I would not be opposed I would not be saddened at all if the GHSA went away tomorrow. I think there is so many cases and examples of them bungling things over the last 10 years that I don't blame people for being upset with the GHSA. Sure. I mean, how many times, just in this reclassification stuff, how many times do they have to change reclassification and change their minds and decide, just like the last time they did reclassification, the executive director wanted to reduce the number of classes, because we currently have 7. He wanted to reduce it back down to 6. Right. So that's what he was recommending. And all of a sudden, some members on the executive committee said, no, we like giving trophies out to everybody. So we're just going to keep it at 7. So they said, okay. So they went back to the drawing board, and after telling everybody they were going to restrict it back to 6, And now they look wishy-washy with this public-private school split in the single A classification.
Yeah.
And man, it's a maddening type of organization.
But
it really is.
That's where I feel like whether it's government, whether it's private for profit, private not for profit, you still have human beings with their own individual interests spread out across a state, and you're still going to drill down and boil down to the same challenges and problems. And I just don't know that there is a real perfect, even a more optimal way to do it.
Yeah.
Because you're still going to run into some cronyism, so-and-so gets favored. We hear that about Gwinnett County. Oh, Gwinnett County doesn't get in trouble like South Georgia does or whatever.
Right.
I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just giving you an example of some of the rhetoric we've heard over the last few years. I don't know how we avoid that with some other framework. Maybe there's a way. I haven't heard of it yet.
Here's basically, if this bill has any shot of passing at all, then these representatives basically have to appeal to South and Middle Georgia folks, because that's our only shot at getting it passed. And they would have to appeal to the emotional aspect of it, of the fact that we complain all the time that the GHSA does not represent South and Middle Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, because the Metro Atlanta, Georgia, by default, because of the size of their population, have the votes, and they always have the votes.
Yeah.
When it comes to the GHSA and its executive committee or the board of trustees.
And it's so different up there geographically, where you have one county with 1 million people in it. It would take how many counties down here to make half that? 50,
right.
40? I mean, you know what I mean? So their challenges are so different. They're so concentrated that I don't know how a one size fits all works for the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
Given that.
My biggest beef with the GHSA is and I'm going to throw this out there as a caveat. It's my perception. I don't know if my perception is correct or not, but it's my perception. It's my perception that it's unfair representation.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're penalized based on our population size. Now, well, you might be saying to yourself, well, Larry, that's just where the numbers lie. I mean, that just makes sense because the Metro Atlanta area has the numbers, and they have the number of representatives, and they should get the votes and that kind of. I'm not arguing any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But George, what kind of country would we be today if
without
our government structure was set up that way?
Without the Senate, for example.
That's right.
Where you have 2 in Cali and 2 in Wyoming. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Irrespective of. So yeah.
So that's what if there were any change to the GHSA remaining a private organization, I would hope one day in their infinite wisdom to address this perception of lack of fair representation is to basically redo their structure, not do away with it, but to redo their structure to basically create another part of the board of trustees that basically has the same number of representatives per county or per area, however they want to define it, right? And so those trustees basically have the equal voting power as the population-based, kind of like the U.S. government, right?
Kind of like the House and the Senate.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I follow you.
So,
I mean, it adds another layer, but it makes sense.
It makes sense because now you address the concerns of the population. Yeah. And you also address the concerns of fairness as in we're all equal in the state.
Right. And the framework has already been tried and true from a government standpoint. So that framework could be applied here and make sense.
Just about every state government operates that way. You got a bicameral legislature.
Yeah.
So why can't the GHSA do that as well? So that's my soapbox. So anyway, let's move on. Next thing is okay. Let's talk about some coaching changes.
Could I ask you real quick? There was that second bill.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I'm glad you brought that up.
Bill that allowed players compensation or something like that.
Not compensation, but it basically opens up eligibility.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah.
It opens up eligibility. And guys, right now, the way the eligibility stuff works is if you want to be eligible to play for a team, you got to live in their school district. And if you move to a new school district, your whole family structure has to move with you. And everybody's heard of the term by now called bona fide move, right? So that means the entire family structure moves and lives in the new school district. That way you gain your eligibility immediately. If not, you can move there, but you just have to sit out a year. You can still play junior varsity and other types of sub-varsity sports. You just can't play varsity for a year. So there's a second bill that's been pre-filed. I'm glad you brought that up. That basically grants, it's an open season when it comes to eligibility, George. That's what basically this second bill says. It's like, it doesn't matter when you move there. It doesn't matter who you move with.
Yeah.
It kind of roughly defines what some limitations are, but not many. It's like, baby, it's like you show up at the start of the school year, you can just play right away.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? Basically a wild west of eligibility. You know who else has a system already in place like this? The state of Florida.
Do they? How much time have they had in that saddle? Has it been a while?
It's been a few years now.
That'd be a good follow-up point to see what their challenges are down there and how that's working. Because I'm torn on this one as a small L libertarian, I'm a little more, do your thing, don't infringe on others' freedoms. But at the same time, this just smacks of stacking decks. Right. Travel ball type, getting everybody together, get the band together and create these, all-star type teams. And it takes a little bit of the genuine, hometown, farm raised component of it.
Check this out. Here's some of the language in the bill. Okay. The first part sounds really reasonable. Check this out.
It always does. It's probably got a neat, cute little name too, right? Yeah, CARES Act or something.
The bylaws governing student residence and transfer shall allow the student to be eligible to participate in high school athletic competition in the school in which he or she first enrolls each school year, or makes himself or herself a candidate for an athletic team by engaging in a practice prior to enrolling in any member school. That's very ambiguous there, the second part. Now, listen to this. The student shall be and remain eligible in such school so long as he or she remains enrolled in such school. Subsequently, eligibility shall be determined and enforced through the organization's bylaws where the student lives, with whom the student lives, or which school the student attended the previous year shall not be a factor in determining eligibility. So where you live, who you live with, what is it? Where you live, who you live with, or which school the student attended the previous year shall not be a factor in determining eligibility. Can you say Pandora's box?
That's what I'm just thinking of. I try not to be negative right away, but at the same time, it does open up a can of worms. It goes back to what we talked about earlier in the metro Atlanta area. Yeah. You may be within 3 miles of, X number of schools, or even though it may be a long commute, you still have close proximity to. So this kind of happens in some ways by way of that geography and the amount of population density.
Right.
Down here, I feel like it would disadvantage Southern because we're spread out more. Lowndes can't pull from Ware County and Coffee and as easily as Gwinnett could pull from other parts of Gwinnett, because there's 1 million people in Gwinnett County, roughly.
That's true. Now, you would notice here as a little bit, not as much as in the metro areas. For example, if you had a Lowndes guy or girl, it could cover tennis or softball, right. A Lowndes student athlete, for whatever reason, just wants to travel across town, probably in 5-10 minute drive to Valdosta High School, and automatically you're granted. No longer do the school district boundary lines define eligibility, because it explicitly says that in this bill, that where the student lives shall not be a factor. It's not like the rules committee that comes up with the details afterwards could fill in the blanks, because in the bill itself, in this one, it says shall not be a factor.
Well, now here's where a situation where I'll plead ignorance, because let me give you my example in Ware County. I live in Blackshear, Pierce County School Zone. I used to live in Ware County, in Waycross, so Ware County School Zone. I could pay about $1,500 tuition and send my kids to the Pierce County system. So I wasn't blocked from sending them to Pierce County. I could send them all I wanted. I just had to pay not only the Ware County taxes, which are already embedded in your, in your taxes that you pay anyway, but I would also have to pay, per student to send them tuition to the other school if I chose to do that. So I'm not sure there's really is there a barrier there? I know people are skirting the issue anyway with living in their aunt or their grandma or, their uncle or whatever. So is that just are we just basically saying we're going to concede that and let them do it?
Pretty much. That's what this new bill, that's what this new bill says. It does not matter who you live with, where you live, or what school you attended the previous year, that those things are not going to be factors when it comes to determining eligibility. So what is going to determine eligibility? Basically, the school that you enroll in the first of the year. That's really the only thing.
Mm-hmm. What about, I would also wonder about, like, how do you prepare for population of students coming to a particular school, with funding that's largely from the Department of Education? Don't they receive a lot of funding at the state level, at the federal level?
Yeah.
And some of it's based on FTE and
now I would imagine school systems are still going to have their own ability to accept students, right? So schools can probably still have rules in place where we're not going to allow students outside of our school district to come in. As long as they universally apply that to everyone, courts usually leave that alone. But if they do have a rule that says, anybody can come over here and go to our school, whether you pay a tuition or not, that's fine. So what happens to that student when they hit the receiving school? So that's what this bill is covering. So right now, the GHSA says you can allow any student that you want to your school. That's up to you. But if they want to participate in high school athletics, you're going to have to follow our rules, and that's the bona fide move. This bill, basically is targeting that. It wants to strip that rule away.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. That's basically the wild, wild west.
And Republicans, I believe, are behind these bills, if I remember correctly. Not to get political about it, but that it seems to be a partisan, a Republican-led effort here. I mean,
and they call it school choice, and I understand the argument.
That umbrella too, right? You go where you want to go, and the better school wins, and that kind of stuff.
That's right. That's right. So listen, you got to ignore some of the hecklers that are now just showing up to the comment section.
I love it. What we got?
We got our boy Justin Haley, man. Listen, we were all worried about him. We talked about his illness as being a show, worried about him, that kind of stuff. And now he wants to get on the chat line and heckle us.
What you got, Justin? I thought you were putting it up there.
No. I'll go ahead, I'll put it up there. He says, I'm bouncing from page to page. George is the star of the show.
Oh, if that's the case. Ew. Look, this is good stuff to talk about, because you're talking about some serious changes that would happen to the landscape if this is like the NIL stuff in college. I mean, not to be dramatic, but you're talking some big changes if some of this stuff goes through.
Well, let me give you an example, a local example that would hit home. You remember last year in the Lowndes area? You remember last year, one of Colquitt's star players, what was that kid's name? I think they called him Baby D Wheeler.
Okay,
something like that.
I heard the name.
Yeah, so he's a really, really good receiver. That's all I know about. I don't know anything else about him other than I'd heard that he's a very good receiver. For whatever reason, he wanted to come over and play for Lowndes. And I thought from what I'd heard that was about to happen. And then the Colquitt coaching staff stepped in at what I've been told, allegedly, that a conversation happened with the coaching staff and the GHSA, and they brought up bona fide move and that kind of stuff, and basically got the transfer nixed before it even happened. If these rules were in place, there's nothing a coaching staff can do about it.
Right.
Because the bona fide stuff goes out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So anybody can transfer anywhere they want.
So then your coaches become recruiters, at least in personality and in,
Correct.
you know, charisma, that what would attract students. And that's my concern, because then you would start maybe seeing some of the incentives start to fly. Why don't we compel this guy to come? Why don't we reach out and bring so-and-so from Cook County, right, down to Lowndes? Not to use Lowndes, but you know what I mean. Arian, Brooks. Why don't we start bringing this talent over because there's a reasonable commute?
That's right.
I think the towns like Warner Robins, they have Houston County, Warner Robins High, Northside. Look at all the talent that's concentrated there. And if they all started, you know,
that's exactly right,
just having free reign to do whatever.
Yep.
There's going to be coaches just doing cage matches, right?
Yeah. You know, I don't personally, I don't think these bills, either one of these bills, has a chance of passing the legislature. But it always catches the GHSA's attention because it forces them at least to entertain the legislators that have these concerns. So now they get a chair at the table to at least voice some concerns.
Yeah.
That's what these bills are meant to do.
Well, yeah, it makes me think of the old thing where, you know, the kid asked the parent for $1,000 and they say, heck no, you crazy? And they say, well, how about $10? Yeah. And they all wanted $10 to begin with, right?
Yeah, man. Let's talk about, let's transition, talk about some of these coaching changes.
Yeah.
And some of the dominoes that are continuing to fall. Hey, George, I got to put this comment, man. Ben Beam is taking a shot across the bow there in Houston County. He says, you know, Ben is a big Northside fan, and he says Warner Robins is recruiting the whole county now. Warner Robins fans, where you at? What's your counter? I have no idea if that's true or not, but that's what a Northside fan said. Warner Robins is recruiting the whole county now. Whether they're recruiting or not, they sure are winning a lot. That's for sure.
5 times speaks pretty loud. 5 state title games in a row.
Exactly right. But listen, in defense of your Ware County Gators, you got them this past year, didn't you?
We are their daddy in 2021.
I knew that was coming.
And daddy's proud. They won 2 state titles in a row.
Exactly. Hey, let's talk about some of the coaching changes. One of the questions that we had was, the Richters say, well, what do y'all think of the hiring of Sean Calhoun in Colquitt County? He's probably the biggest high-profile hire in the offseason, probably across the state. Because Colquitt County, let's be honest. I mean, they're a premier program now. Rush Probst did that for them, put them on a major map, not just in the state of Georgia and South Georgia, but nationwide. They're a national brand. And so he went away. Their brand value probably took a dip, if we're honest about it. And now, so they go out and get a former Rush Probst offensive coordinator, and there's excitement over there again, George. That's what I'm hearing, man. They love the fan base in general. From what I'm hearing, they're loving this hire.
He comes in at a pretty good time too. I mean, if you know, last year they were young, and from what I hear from some of the locals, they had some attrition. Sounded like morality was down, but at the same time, they were still doing pretty darn good.
Not morality, but morale, right? That was a little misspeak. Morale was down.
Yeah, well, that was a few years ago. Morale was had taken a hit. But I think he comes in at a good time. He certainly had some good years at Carrollton.
Right.
When he was there, and like you said, his pedigree should make a lot of them happy because he's got the Rush DNA. thing going on. So I'm excited for him. I'd like to see, how it goes for him this year. They could possibly be a legit contender.
Yeah. You would agree with this statement when I make it, wouldn't you? When I say Rush Propst was a legend in Colquitt County.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you guys have heard of this before. You don't ever want to be the guy that follows a legend, regardless of why he left, whether it's retirement, whether he died, whether he got moved to another school, whatever the case. Right. You just don't want to be the guy that follows the legend. Why is that? Because he's a legend for a reason.
Yeah. Huge shoes.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
And he couldn't quite pull it off.
And you're compared to the legend.
You're compared to the legend 100%. From day one.
Yep.
From day one. You step in that building, they're automatic comparing you to how you ran your drills, how you run your nutrition program, how you communicated to student athletes and their parents, how you communicated to the community, the touchdown club. Everything is put under a microscope, and you are compared to the legend.
Yeah.
So now that first guy, he doesn't live up to the legend. So expectations are starting to be lowered. Right. And then he gets canned. Now the next guy that follows that guy, that's the guy that you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Sean Calhoun is coming along at the right time.
Yeah.
And it looks like a win-win, right?
Yep.
So
we got a couple of Colquitt fans that kind of disagree with this. So the question was Sean Calhoun a big-time great hire for Colquitt County? So Kyle and Susan Richter says, yeah, Calhoun was the correct hire. He's going to reunite the community because he knows the community, he knows the kids, and he knows the region. Stevie Sheffield, however, he's another big Colquitt fan. He says, man, I think they still had to have better coaches apply, title-winning coaches. Oh, well. So there's two basically factions of the fan base probably that's represented. In general, I think the fan base agrees with the Richters that they like the hire. Yeah. There's probably some that agree with Stevie Sheffield and says, hey, listen, we're a national brand. Why didn't we attract someone that had multiple state championships under their belt, like as a head coach?
Yeah. The thing though, I would argue against Stevie, no offense, I would like to see titles too. I get it, but you got to look at the whole picture, the community, the touchdown club, like you talked about, the parents. Everybody has to fit together in sort of like a puzzle to make that success happen. And if you get a winner in here who doesn't jive with the local community, maybe he's from somewhere north or east or west, whatever. It could only take one thing that would throw that whole thing out of whack, and one, cog in the wheel out of whack. And next thing you know, you're doing the hunt again in 2 or 3 years, and that problem gets magnified. And to me, it sounds like Sean Calhoun fits.
Yeah.
Like the other couple was saying, sort of the puzzle comes together for him.
Now here's what I'm expecting, George. I'm expecting him to reinstate some of the things that Rush did when he was there, because if you listen to and you read about the background, the bio of Sean Calhoun, he spent a couple of years at Berrien as an assistant. Listen,
all great coaches
come from Berrien County. That's just the way it is. So if I'm taking credit right now, George, if Sean Calhoun wins state championships at Colquitt County, Berrien, I'm claiming, are the kingmakers of Colquitt County. That's just the way it is. We train people, we train coaches to go and win championships elsewhere because we just don't apparently know how to do it there in Nashville.
You start them off well, though.
Right?
The infant stages are critical.
That's right. So he leaves Berrien and goes up to, I believe, Collins Hill, spends, I think, 5-6 years there, something like that, as an assistant, maybe an offensive coordinator. Basically learns, basically sharpens his offensive mind, if you will. Mm-hmm. Then he gets hired by, I think, Rush Propst. I think. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if there was another stop on the way after that. Rufus Demand. He's a big Colquitt guy. He said, Rufus says Sean's success will depend on his hires for assistant coaches.
Okay.
I agree 100%. And that's why, Rufus, I say that I think Coach Calhoun will reinstate some of the things that Rush Probst did, including some of the hires that he made. I fully expect him to reach out to some of these other former championship assistant coaches that served in that regime over the years and basically bring the band back together.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Bring the band back together.
Absolutely. So I think he's going to.
Yeah, they can. Yeah.
Obviously, he's going to implement the offense, or re-implement the offense that won them a couple of, because I think he was there in the state championships years of what, 2014, 2015, when they went 30-0,
30-0, yeah.
An amazing number of points on offense. Now, at the same time, they had a great defense to go along with it, right? But as far as offensively, Sean Calhoun was in charge of that, and they scored a lot of points in those 2 years that he was there. So I expect him to reinstate that power spread offense that Probst was famous for. That's going to give people fits. If he's able to implement, if he's able to bring back the Colquitt athletes that we saw over the last decade into his offensive power spread system, that's going to present a lot of headaches for not just region teams, but teams all over the state. So I expect Colquitt to start competing at a high level again.
And if they do, one question to be determined is one knock on Rush. I could say I might find some agreement with you and maybe others. Is some of the intra-game calls were mediocre, maybe kind of pedestrian. As great of a program builder and everything else, that seemed to be an Achilles heel for him. I could think of a couple of key games where you're like, what just happened? You know, they
state championship games,
defeat from the jaws of victory. Yes. And so if Calhoun can get them up to that level and then show a little bit more proficiency there, he might, you know, become legendary himself.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Sky's the limit.
Absolutely. So listen, now we talked about when these coaching changes happen, we talk about some of the dominoes that take effect. So obviously I kind of touched on the defense a while ago. In the 14 and 15 years, 2014, 2015, had an amazing run on the offensive side, but they had a great defense as well. So who's he going to hire as a defensive mastermind over there to basically run that side of the ball? Is he going to keep Alan Rodemaker as his defense coordinator? Is he going to keep Ashley Anders? Is he going to keep, you know, Byron Slack was over there. Now he's over at Cook County as the new head coach up there in Adel.
He's already settled. It's a good question. He's definitely got a key hire to make there.
Absolutely. So what we're hearing, some of the rumors that's coming out of Moultrie is he probably won't keep either one of those, Alan Rodemaker or Ashley. We don't know, but Rufus says Anders is at Lowndes. Rufus, I cannot confirm or deny that statement. Stevie Sheffield says, this is news to me. Sheffield says Rodemaker is going to Thomas County Central High School, from what I understand.
He's going to be the DC for Justin?
Maybe he's following Rogers to TCC. Man, where is Cole Moore when we need? Oh, yeah, his wife's having a baby.
He's got an iPhone. Hello.
Yep. Yeah, so the Richters and Sheffield and Rufus they're all saying, heard Anders went to listen. Guys, we've all heard those rumors. Okay. No one has confirmed that yet. Wink, wink. But we've all heard those rumors, right? So we'll just have to wait and see what the official. I will tell you that the next Lowndes Board of Education meeting, where you know, everybody knows that the Board of Education not usually, but always has to approve these hires. So whenever assistants come in, just like any other teacher in the school system, they're the ones that's going to approve this. The next scheduled Lowndes board meeting is in 3 weeks.
Okay.
So now, obviously, any board can call a special called meeting at any time. but the next scheduled Lowndes board meeting is in 3 weeks. Wilbur Pelfrey says the rumor is Anders coming to Lowndes, according to Chris Beckham. I heard Beckham say that last night as well on his show at 6 o'clock. And guys, if you don't listen to Chris Beckham, shame on you. He does a really good show. Monday nights, every Monday night at 6 o'clock. I think it's called the High School Football Report or something like that. And that just airs all year round.
Yeah.
So I heard Chris Beckham say that last night as well. Now he came back and a couple minutes later and clarified. It says, you know, well, that's what he's heard, that Ashley Anders is coming to Lowndes, but he doesn't know in what capacity. People are assuming he's coming as a defensive coordinator, but we don't know. But he says he doesn't know in what capacity. So I can't confirm or deny that. I've heard the same rumors that you guys have heard.
Did you mention the DC leaving Lowndes? Has that been confirmed?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we haven't talked about that yet, but I think everybody knows that by now because that story hit yesterday.
Papers,
yeah. So what opens up the defensive coordinator position at Lowndes is the vacant position at Lowndes. The former defensive coordinator, Mark Hurt, he came with Jamie DuBose from Alabama, from Central Phoenix City, but he's returning to Alabama as the Pike County High School head coach. I think that was approved yesterday or last night, I should say. So that opens up a DC position at Lowndes. So now the rumor mills are kicking into high gear. Some say it's Alan Rodemaker. Some say it's Ashley Anders. We'll have to see. Guys, listen, I think a lot of these rumors, not just from Lowndes, but from other places, other programs, don't be surprised if you are getting a dose of misinformation, or I should call it, George, misdirection. I think a lot of schools, because of social media, are becoming very, very savvy with getting news out there, right? Basically to throw people off the trail so they can have some conversations, some real-time conversations with people that they actually intend to hire. And the public is talking about this person, that person, whatever.
Yeah, sometimes it's misinformation, which can be construed as not maliciously trying to provide wrong information, just you provided something that was wrong. Disinformation, of course, we know is going to be the malicious spreading of wrong information, and both, as we know, exist in this
Absolutely.
So depending on who you're talking to and what their interests are.
Listen, case in point, I'm not accusing anyone of saying anything, but a case in point of what I'm talking about is just a week or two ago when Colquitt hired Sean Calhoun. Up until the day before, we were hearing that it's 100% done deal. Mark Freeman is going to be the new head coach at Colquitt County. That spread like wildfire, right? A few hours before they make the announcement, it's like, and then when what's his name? Sean Calhoun name gets thrown out there, everybody's scratching their heads like, what?
Yes, like
he's a Mark Freeman was a done deal.
Right. Like they were like, what happened to him? Did he fail the physical?
So I don't know if negotiations fell through with Freeman. I don't know if he asked for too much money or if he just couldn't make the move with bad timing, whatever. But that was the name that was etched in concrete.
100%.
That's what we were being told.
Their cred behind it.
And then a few hours before the announcement, Sean Calhoun's name surfaces. And so that's what I'm talking about. So don't get caught up in rumor mills. It's fun to talk about as a fan and play these what if games, but don't be surprised nowadays if you're getting misinformation or a misdirection. It's almost like running the wing T in the coaching hiring world, right? It's a bunch of misdirection. You just don't know who's getting the ball. So anyway, we're coming up with all kinds of analogies tonight.
Yep.
All kinds of comparisons. So if Lowndes ends up hiring, let's say Ashley Anders or Rodemaker, what's the next domino to fall? So let's say, for example, play the what if game. If Lowndes ends up hiring someone like an Alan Rodemaker and Justin Rogers was planning on bringing him on board as the DC in Thomas County Central, now that's another domino that falls. Now he's got to go out and raid another staff, and that domino falls, right?
That's right.
So you just see this constant one after the other. Whenever one of these things occurs, there's probably 10 more dominoes about to fall.
Yeah,
So,
which is why you need to have a year-round show.
exactly
Well,
right.
it's a shameless plug, but it's true. Stuff
Absolutely.
happens all year round. It's just a different facet of the game. We're not talking about the actual game, who beat who. We're talking about the preseason. Who's going to be coaching? What's that dynamic going to look like? You know, those kind of things. It's very interesting, just even to the casual, to the casual fan.
Yep. Hey, Rufus says that he says, I am supporting Jeremy Rowell for Colquitt, DC. Rufus, I'll be honest with you. I have no idea who that is.
I couldn't either. I couldn't tell you either.
So give us an idea. Are you know, Rufus sometimes has a quirky sense of humor, and sometimes he'll drop these little nuggets and meant to talk about misdirection. Rufus is known for that sometimes. But in all seriousness, Rufus, if you're being serious, Jeremy Rowell, give us a call. Who is he? Call in number 229-469-1205.
That would be a great opportunity to come on and sell him. He might be a good friend of yours. He might be a guy you think needs that opportunity, a break, you know, and he might fall in one of these domino spots just by getting some PR. Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm glad you said that, because I want to take this time now and just put a not an appeal, but a challenge out there, George. And that is, whether it's Rufus or someone else, guys, we are always looking for passionate and articulate super fans of programs in our viewing area, where you just join us on a regular, but you don't have to join us every week, but every other week, once a month, whatever your schedule allows. Why don't you come on this show and represent your team and tell us about your team? Because obviously we don't know everything. You know, sometimes we like to pretend that we do, but we don't. So we rely on guys just like you, and it's more fun with more voices that we get involved. I think, George, we do a good job. I really do. But I think the show could be that much better if we had other super fans join us on a regular basis.
And it just makes it makes the enjoyment of the games when you know certain backstories.
Right.
It's like when ESPN does a backstory on a certain player, and I didn't know he had cancer, or I didn't know his mom and dad had this misfortune happen. And it just heightens your appreciation for the game or the matchup or
absolutely
any of that, you know, just by knowing a little bit more. And to me, that's part of it. It's just
absolutely
not nerding out on being a stat king or guru.
Yeah.
It's just,
so guys, there's a number of fans that's being represented from a lot of different teams watching tonight. I see them in the comments. Number of Colquitt fans, guys, call into the show. Let us know that you're a super fan. We want to bring you on to the show, man, and let the world see your smiling mug on the screen with us. We'll do it right. We really will. So that's my appeal and my challenge. Justin Kyle Haley, Fitzgerald. Haley, we're not even talking about Fitzgerald tonight. Stop being a heckler, man. Just get better. Focus on getting better. And Marcus Rogers, he's a super fan that needs to start calling the show. That's for sure. He's a Valdosta Wildcat super fan, right? Marcus, welcome back to Region 17A, but your third seat at best.
How's that for the rolling out the red carpet, Marcus?
Absolutely. Listen, George, we want him on the show, but I got to be me, man.
Well, hey, I remember when Marcus said that Warner Robins was going to score north of 77 on Ware.
Absolutely. Marcus can bring it. You know, Marcus can bring it.
Off on that one.
and just so you guys know, Marcus and I are pretty good friends. We go to the same church. We rag each other, but we love each other. He's a fellow Christian. So I love Marcus Rogers. Anyway, just wanted you guys to know that I'm not picking on just anybody. Okay. Marcus is a good friend. So anyway, guys, there are some other topics that we wanted to get up to tonight, but we're an hour and 15 minutes into this deal, right? I was about to say we're going to end the show, but Stevie Sheffield just threw out this challenge, and we'll answer this one last question before we call it night, and then we'll pick it up again next week. Marcus says LG just roots for the wrong teams. Marcus, here's the deal. Marcus is a huge Florida Gator fan. Marcus, right here, buddy.
Yeah.
Commit to the G, buddy.
We got the timer on for him. We got a slide for him, just for him.
That's right. I do. I've got a slide. As a matter of fact,
He made it just for you, Marcus.
Marcus.
And Cole.
Marcus, this is for you right here. Anytime you are ready to come onto the show, talk Valdosta, I will give you 3 minutes, and I won't interrupt you one single time. 3 minutes. But guys, you gotta realize 3 minutes is a long time when you're the only one talking, right, George?
Yes.
Cole found out the hard way a couple weeks ago. So here's the last question that we were going to answer. And that is this. He says, what's Lowndes going to be like without Ja'Cory Brown? Man, that is a great question. Ja'Cory has been the starting quarterback for Lowndes for it almost seems like 1,000 years. But in reality, it's been 4 years since he was a freshman. And we've seen how good Lowndes is when Ja'Cory Brown is the quarterback. So, Stevie, here's my answer. We don't know. It's going to be an open quarterback competition going into the spring. So we're going to find out in May what Lowndes has up its sleeve, right? So Justin Haley says, he's been saying this. He's been pretty consistent with this when it comes to Lowndes and the quarterback situation. Justin Haley is convinced that Jamie DuBose likes to run an air raid offense. So he says, you're about to see an actual air raid offense. Justin, I disagree with you. I don't think we're going to see an air raid offense. We're probably going to see a more balanced offense, but it's not going to be a Mike Leach, a Hal Mummy type of air raid type of deal. I don't think that's going to be it. Where Lowndes is going to have an athletic quarterback that can always beat you with his legs and his arm, as long as Jamie DuBose, I believe, as long as Jamie DuBose is the head coach at Lowndes. That's just the way I see it. He may surprise me next year, but the quarterbacks that I've seen coming up through the Lowndes system, whether it's 8th grade, 9th grade, JV, fit that model.
Yeah.
Guys, they fit that mold, right? So I think Jamie DuBose is, if I had to give an educated guess on his offensive style, it's more of a run-based spread. It's not like 70 to 80% run like Randy McPherson was. I almost called him Randy DuBose. Randy McPherson was. But it's more of a probably 60-40 run versus pass. If he had to install his quarterback from scratch, I think he would run it still the majority of the time. So anyway, DuBose is more of a formation, give the linebackers eye candy kind of guy. Uses a lot of formation, a lot of motion, movement, just to
try to create a matchup. Get linebackers and safeties looking a certain way, and he'll attack a weakness based on the reaction of that movement and formation. Yeah,
that's what I've seen in the last 2 years.
Yeah,
and when I see his videos from Central Phoenix City, that's what I see there as well, right? So he likes to use motion and formations to find weaknesses to attack. So anyway, that was a long answer for you guys, Stevie, so, but the short version is, I don't know. We're going to have to wait until the spring to see what quarterback or quarterbacks emerges from that open competition. So we'll see. It's
going to make for some fun talk during that time.
Yeah. So can Lowndes repeat the offensive ways that it went when Ja'Cory Brown was there? Absolutely, it can, because the quarterbacks that are coming up are going to be, I don't want to say just as good, because I haven't seen them at the varsity level in action yet, but they're going to be very good. I'll just put it that way. They're going to be very good. So will they be just as good as Ja'Cory Brown? That's to be determined, but we'll just have to see. Sheffield says it's going to be a rebuild year. Sheffield, you may be right. We just have to sit back and wait.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a rebuild year, but we'll have to wait.
And, we have to be careful not to fall in the same trap we're accusing others of doing when we talked about Rush being legendary, is to compare this upcoming, quarterback. We're having the same thing at Ware County, right? We had a 4-year starter at quarterback.
That's right.
We can't unfairly compare them to that exiting legend, right? And have reasonable expectations, not accept that we're going to have a rebuild or a reload or whatever, but understand he's different. Let him be his own quarterback and utilize what skill sets and trust the coach, all that stuff.
That's right. Last word here is Wilbur Pelfrey. He says, I'm telling you, he will show a 2-quarterback offense next year. Wilbur, you might be right. We'll just have to wait and see, man. Well, guys, that's I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to cover all the posted topics tonight that we'd intended to talk about. But whatever we didn't talk about tonight will carry over to next week because it's what did you call it, George? It's the preseason.
It is.
Right. And so there's plenty to talk about next week. So come on back, guys, and join us again next week. Until then, he's George Braddock. I'm Larry Godwin. You guys have been watching the Tuesday night pregame blitz right here on your favorite bat channel. We'll catch you guys later. Have a great week. See you guys.
Bye.